Welcome to Group Y Live. I'm Oli Russell-Cowan, and I'm stoked to be joined today by Courtney Carter, the Chief Revenue Officer for the Seattle Sounders FC and Seattle Reign FC. Courtney shares her journey from playing soccer at a high level to becoming a key player in the sports marketing and talent representation. We talk about her experiences in Major League Soccer, ESPN, and CAA, and the evolution of media and the importance of diversifying across traditional and new media platforms. She shares insights on the pressures of content creation for young entertainers, the transition from working at CAA to starting her own business, and the significance of reclaiming identity in the entertainment industry, and loads more. Let's jump into it. Hey, Courtney, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Ollie?
Yeah, pretty good. Great to have you on. How's everything over there?
I was so excited to get your email. I was like, yeah, I'm down. Anything Group Y.
Nice one. And you're over in Seattle at the moment?
I am. It is a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday morning. I wish I could turn the camera. I'm looking out at our at the clubhouse for the Sounders, and I'm looking out at our field and our practice facility that we just opened this last year. I'm like, ugh, time's warp. And it's just immaculate. I'm just looking at the lines in the grass, and the gents are about to arrive, I'd say, in about an hour's time, usually 10 a.m.
Nice. And you're coming up to a year, right, that you've been at the club?
That is true. It's technically been a year, April 15th, but I didn't move full time until May. So,
okay.
I was doing the back and forth, pack your life up thing through April of last year. But yeah, it's wild. It feels like yesterday I just got here, and also that I've been here for a few years in all the good ways.
Nice. And how does it feel? I mean, playing when you're at college, playing soccer, pretty high level, and then you were working in it as well, weren't you? Sort of.
I have, yeah. So it's in college. So I played at Oregon State University, go Beavs, back when it was Pac-10, to age myself. And I loved it, right? It was my sport. I played it ever since I was probably 5 or 6, and got really competitive probably around the age of 10. So played college, played semi-pro, won a national championship, won a bunch of things. When I came out of college, though, the pro league, WUSA, had folded. Like the year before me, it was in, and then in 2005, no league. And you're going, all right, well, my body's pretty beaten up. And if I was going to go play up overseas, there was not really a lot to do. It was pretty much in Asia. And I was like, I would need to make money. Like, that's how you do this now, right? You adult and you go and you get a job. And I love sports and entertainment, and I was always doing that. And so, I got an internship in New York at the Knicks and at the Garden, and I fell in love with New York City. And at that point, was kind of a goner in terms of probably never going back to the pitch in any sort of professional capacity. But I did have the opportunity in 2007. I started at Major League Soccer and Soccer United Marketing a few months before Beckham came over to the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
And so, after my years at the Garden, and really understanding how entertainment and sport come to life at the Mecca, it was so cool to go to Major League Soccer. And for those who don't understand the commercialization of the sports, MLS started in 1996, 2 years after the 1994 World Cup, right? So they took all that money they made through hosting the World Cup, and started Major League Soccer in 1996. And there were just a few owners who owned a bunch of teams. And over the course of time, there was I think at the time I started, there was only 2 soccer specific stadiums, I think in LA and in Columbus. And so when David came over, it was a big deal for the obvious reasons. But it was a very much of educating the marketing landscape of the United States on what the sport is. Right? It's hard to understand if you don't grow up in it. It's like acronym soup. It's like, what's FIFA? What's CONCACAF? What's UEFA? It's like, I know NFL, NBA, MLB, right? So when you talk about marketing and you talk about trying to reach an audience or a consumer and convince them to spend their hard-earned dollars on a ticket to go to a thing and watch your games, we meaning people who controlled kind of soccer IP, including the league, had to create quality control, right? So you didn't go to an MLS game and had an amazing time and then went to a US soccer game and it was bad, right? Like you couldn't. And so Soccer United Marketing was founded by the ownership groups of MLS, and with the intention and the idea, and then they bought the rights to the 2006 FIFA World Cup media rights. Like, look, if we operate and represent anytime a ball is kicked in any meaningful way in this country, and we represent it commercially, we can help grow the sport and its popularity. And so that was SUM, right? And so when I went over to SUM on the business development side, I was representing everything from Major League Soccer. We had the commercial rights to the U.S. national teams, the Crest, right? We were really the only ones in the market recognizing that there were primary Spanish-speaking folks that lived in our country that loved sports, specifically a first generation versus a second. I'm a Mexican national team, through and through, but my children were born in the United States and they wear a U.S. jersey, right? And so you had these kind of like divided households. We represented the Mexican national team rights. We had CONCACAF. So we had the Gold Cup, we had Champions League at the time is what it was called. And we actually had Barcelona's international rights. And so anytime Barca came through the States, we owned and operated those events and sold them. And then, of course, Major League Soccer. And a few years in, they relaunched the Women's League. It was called Women's Professional Soccer. A lot of people forget it because it wasn't, it was before social media. And so WPS I was the commercial lead for that as well. So I helped launch the second iteration of the Women's League. It was super incredible. And after the 2010 World Cup, I got poached by ESPN and went over there and started learning how the media side works. But yes, to answer your question, very long-winded way, those were the days too where you had to fly. Like you were doing virtual meetings.
Yep.
So I was on a flight, getting a rental car, driving and sitting down with the VPs of marketing, CMOs all over the country. And literally, I found a deck the other day, actually, being like, this is what FIFA is. This is what CONCACAF is. This is how we fit within this. And then, having to just kind of give the ABCs of the sport and the structure of it globally. And then how, it was always so much fun to just sit and learn and then be able to explain, like, we have all these beautiful opportunities for you to reach people in a really organic and like authentic way through this sport in this country. And we aren't MLB, we're not NFL, we were very different.
Was it like a massive education back then when all that started? I mean, in terms of sort of when you're like speaking to potential partners, because they would like know.
Like, what do you do? I'm a teacher and I go on dates. Like literally, I ask people to spend time with me, and then I explain something because they're like, I'm hearing about this soccer thing. My kids play. Right. There's this curiosity around all the kids play. So there's numbers there. Mm-hmm. Right. There's seemingly an interested audience there, but I didn't grow up playing it. Right. There was that generation. So now what you're seeing is people who are in purchasing decisions who grew up playing. Right. Like your older millennials and your Gen Xers, Gen Ys. So that's where you're also just seeing, it was just a matter of time. We used to pitch in 20 years, we'll be top 4, right? Maybe top 3. And that's 18 years ago. So wasn't too far off in that estimation. But yeah, it was, I'll send you the deck if I can find it when I get home. I'll send you some photos of those pages. It's like early PowerPoint too. So it's a little hard to oof. Yeah, really nobody, unless they were of a Latino heritage or they were European. But at that time, people who were running marketing departments were really just new NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL, right? And kids played soccer.
And how was it moving to ESPN?
It was fun. It was fantastic. I mean, I didn't go to Bristol. I was in New York in the sales and marketing side. And I was in a a group called, at the time it was called Co-Marketing. It's now called Creative Works, which is an internal creative agency of sorts, that sat in between the consumer marketing group as well as the sales team. And essentially what we did was create value for advertisers to increase their spends. So kind of never been done before ideas that helped amplify our brand and their brand at the same time. So anytime you watch ESPN and you see those like co-promotional spots that promote, let's say, College Game Day. I think one of the, like, Nissan Heisman House is a big example of this. It was one of my accounts where we really blew that out of the water. And every year those commercials that come out with all the former Heisman winners that are really funny, right? We shot those. We worked with production companies. We were storytellers at the intersection of these things. And so that was super fun to really have a impact on the business, because we were driving significant amount of revenue through creative ideas and storytelling. And we were on the precipice, like YouTube had just opened up, like it was just a thing, cat videos, but like the first music video got put on YouTube right around the time I was there. And by the time I left, Vine had just launched. So it was like Facebook, YouTube, early Twitter days, right? And early content. So that was the other thing. We were such a growing even company. That's when like 30 for 30 launched, right?
Okay.
The films, Grantland and the iconic Bill Simmons. And so for me, I went in there and I just remember being in a meeting once and going, why are the Deportes people selling this over here and you're selling this and you're not talking? I don't understand that. Like, I just came from Major League Soccer where that was the sell. Like, we actually got in the door because we had 2-generation model. We had Spanish and English, right? And also they're not separate markets. Like, they're even if their heritage or their culture is historically a Spanish dominant culture, there's English is being spoken. It's just a different flavor of English. And so getting that was a really like labor of love for me, was integrating Deportes and having kind of being creating a bridge there, and then creating these really dynamic marketing campaigns with an advertiser that was maybe the same commercial idea, but just a little different in flavor, right? To speak to different markets, specifically like T-Mobile and baseball. We did a lot of that.
Would it go across like multiple sports, or would, like, just depending on who the client is, or would it be sort of focused on one area, one key sport?
Great question. I think per advertiser, they were either like, I want college basketball, or I want college football, right?
Yeah.
Or I want soccer. And so I'd say the one that was maybe across, which is one that's funny, it still exists. Diageo sponsored PTI and Around the Horn, right?
Okay.
Which is kind of that, fun color commentary type chatter around all things sports, right? A little bit of culture. And it's from 4 to 5. That's the hour. So it's 2 half-hour shows. And they weren't spending any more money. It was hard to get them. And the problem with their budgets is that they changed by quarter. So in one quarter, Captain Morgan would get all the money, right? Then the next quarter, it'd be Guinness. And that was a hard way to like create stuff every quarter for Diageo that made sense based on their campaigns. So, we went back into it, and I'm like, well, why don't we just create a piece of intellectual property that they get to own? They can take to retail, they can do POS. It's from 4 to 5. Let's just call a happy hour. And then they can rotate their brands into it.
Makes sense.
Like, right. But this is before the creation of IP on behalf of and for advertisers with you, right? This is like early days branded content. And so I just remember sitting with my creative team and we sketched. I was like, make it look like a chalkboard. Like, I just remember doing that. And if you watch PTI and Around the Horn, it's still the same graphic. It's still there. They still sponsor it.
They haven't changed it.
Yeah. It's very evergreen, right? So it was incredible. I was put in positions where, look, if you build something for someone that doesn't currently exist, but is able to hold all the, not only hold what the advertiser needs and wants, but entertains folks, you're going to succeed. I had to push production, though, a lot. I had to convince production because it's very, historically really traditional. Like we do Sports Center, we have our top 10, there's the ticker, and I had to go to Bristol a couple times and sit with the head of Sports Center and be like, just trust me. Like, I'm not going to embarrass you. Like, this isn't, because that was the early days of like, that's an ad and this is editorial. It was very black and white.
Was there some kind of conflict between that? I mean, I used to work for a media publisher years and years ago, and I always remember kind of, you go and speak to the editors and
totally, it was so
they're
separate.
like, you kind of need one for the other to work, you kind of like, you got to have it. But yeah, so like sometimes there'd be a butt of heads, wouldn't there?
You're like, how does your salary get paid? And so for me, what was so cool was being at a place like ESPN and this group, we were literally the advertorial agency. Okay. Internally, right? That was coming with ideas that were sold already into production, but we're going to have a flavor that included an advertiser that also was entertaining. Yeah. And so I was so lucky. Basically, I was one of the early days adopters and architects, I'd say maybe with some of my colleagues, of branded content in a real way that was driving revenue. Longer form storytelling that was tied in with a promotion that, had some consumer interface and interaction. I think the first big one we did was Russell Westbrook and Levi's. And they were trying to relaunch the 501 gene in colorways. And this is early Russell Westbrook. I think maybe second year in the league, maybe first, when he was wearing the glasses without the lenses in them. And he was like the first guy to do the fit check thing and be like fashionable. And so we did a whole series on his style with Levi's. And it was like, what's your style? And it was Twitter engagement. It was, you could win the chance to go to, Bristol and meet Russell at an upcoming game. It was pretty great. I think we could find it on the internet somewhere. I don't know, but and then it was cool because I'm also shooting the commercials, so I'm producing the content. I'm like on set. I'm helping Russell understand. Okay, this is what we're trying to get. I'm kind of directing, producing as well. So it was really fun. ESPN was a blast.
Nice. And then that led on to CAA and kind of moving over to the talent side. Was that kind of part of, what was the journey there between going over? So did you just kind of want to...
None of these things were on the bingo card, right? Like I am very grateful and lucky that I enjoy people, and I am very curious, and I'm a lifelong learner. And so I went into these interviews. They were interviews so much as they were like phone calls and like with people I knew. And then they would throw up like, what about this? Have you ever thought about? Because like I was like at as an example, at MLS and Some, I was the broadcast partner liaison, right? Because we were building in and packaging in media. And so they're like, oh, let's have breakfast, right? And so you go and you have breakfast with somebody and they're like, so, and they bring something up. And then, my curiosity is piqued. And at the end of the day, if it's something where I feel like I can be challenged and I can learn something new and I can be a better version of me to set myself up for success in the future, I'm always going to lean into that. And so that happened at ESPN. I got a call from two agents. And this is early 2013, right? And so the internet's not like super dynamic. There's no social media really, CAA was still kind of like super secretive. If you went on CAA.com, it was just a red website with 3 Nashville, New York, LA with a phone number. That's it. You couldn't really Google much information on it. And so I was like, why are you calling me? Like I'm at ESPN, and long story short, I had done so much within the walls at ESPN with talent, right? With our sports broadcasters and their integration into storytelling with brands, that my name had been brought up in a conversation. And so they reached out proactively, and took them 8 months to convince me that I shouldn't stay at ESPN and I should go over to CAA and help them build kind of a new area of business, right? Identifying the type of talent that was non-scripted
Okay.
So non-actor, right? Non-musician, your sports broadcasters, your newscasters, comedians, because they kind of do both, right? They host and identify the top 1% that become brands and businesses themselves. So like early days, celebrity creator economy.
Hmm.
This is like when Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum or like Lisa Vanderpump were starting to really make money building businesses around their shows, their reality shows or their competition shows. And so, yeah, it was an incredible opportunity to go all the way to LA and jump into at the time, and I would still like the foremost most impactful agency in the world. At the time, sports was pretty small. It was just really sports broadcasting, and yeah, and worked for two titans and Nick Khan and Andy Elkin, and I got a master's in that 3.5 years. I started on the TV talent side and building those types of things. And then I very early detected the shifting of social media.
I was
And
just going to ask you that, like, because this is like just the kind of the start of Instagram, right? And it was all that. It,
1000%.
it was that turning point where,
It was
yeah,
the moment, right? And I came from this, hey, using these beautiful platforms to tell your story with an advertiser and a person and an IP and drive revenue. And Kirk Herbstreit as an example. Um, I was trying to explain to his agents, if we can build his audience on Instagram, if I can get him to start an Instagram page and we can build a native and authentic audience, we're going to be able to increase his deal size and his deal flow.
yeah,
And they couldn't get it, right? It was just so far because, again, there was Facebook and there was Twitter, but it was different. And a big media company, they were still trying to protect their brands. And so
and the traditional media and being
traditional media,
ingrained.
trad
Yeah,
media was still running stuff. And so it was so out of the context of what people understood and knew. But yeah, I mean, I'd gotten him a deal with Kingsford. We were shooting a commercial and I was sitting with him and I helped Kirk set up his Instagram account. Like, this is how I'm like, you're in front of millions of college students every weekend. This is where they're starting to live in their
yeah.
phone. Trust me, trust me, trust me. Right. And so what was happening at the time at CAA is I was trying to teach old dogs new tricks. And some of them were like super excited to learn and dive into it. And others were like, I don't get how it makes me money. I make money by getting people jobs. I make money by people giving them money to advertise their brand in a commercial, right? Very traditional stuff. And so it was this beautiful convergence of moments. And there was a little group at CA that was starting to talk about social media and starting to talk about the creator economy and all these people that were building audience on places like YouTube and Vine. And so then I became the first agent in the CAA's digital talent packaging and brand partnerships business. And we built it very quickly with a lot of really smart people. I didn't lead the group so much as I was kind of the first one to just dive in. And a lot of that stemmed from the very first client I signed at CAA was Fuck Jerry.
Okay.
Do you follow that account?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
who was just ginormous, like from the get go, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I signed them, they had 200,000 followers
Okay.
and they were
Wow.
18-year-old kids from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right. And the Fuck Jerry started out as a sneaker account because they're huge sneakerheads, big fans of basketball. And so what I was starting to do with them was build a business and a brand. At the time, the market hadn't caught up with how you make that money off of that. And so
Were they open to endorsements? Like, was the industry kind of, this isn't going to work?
the
Like,
industry was
no.
actually there was a lot of backlash on Fuck Jerry. Because they were memes were considered stealing. Like if you think about that is crazy right now.
Yeah,
The-
yeah,
my whole mental health depends on memes. Like, you know what I mean? Like in 2025, if memes didn't exist, I wouldn't laugh as much, right? And so, but when they were kind of the purveyors and curators of meme culture was really Fuck Jerry and Fat Jewish, if
yeah.
you remember that name too.
Yeah.
And the comedians and the entertainment really, if you Google it, I mean, there's a ton of articles. And so they were kind of like the black sheep of the industry for a minute. And then we were talking, I was like, we've got to start businesses. I was like, you could be the Spencer's Gifts or whatever. And so we should do like a meme card game, and we should do all these things. But then the traditional agency was like, that's not making us money. What are you doing? Why are you building a business? We represent people who are on television, right? And so again, we were just a little too far ahead for what like was happening. So I love those guys. I miss them. They have built an incredible business, Ellie and Elliot. But then I just kept signing people who I felt were really shaping culture, right? Yep. And so then it was Ghetto Gastro, and then it was Amanda Seals, and then all of a sudden I move into this kind of creator space where I'm representing people who haven't been listened to in the traditional media. Maybe their voice was a little too Black, or their voice was a little too disruptive. And I really gravitated towards that. And then so it made sense that internet culture and creators was like exactly where I should have been. And I just remember with my colleague Arleta Fowler, we're like, okay, let's find women of color. Let's like really figure this out. And I'll never forget when I saw one of these first vines that Liza Koshy put out, and I'm like, she is a star. Where can I meet her? And 2015 VidCon was a wild time. I will tell you that. It was beautiful. Signed Liza, was a part of signing like Logan Paul and, a bunch of big pieces of talent over my time, Matt Belisai, and building their businesses because they were full ass businesses, Ollie, right? Like,
yeah.
But Liza was larger than Viacom,
which is mad. Like
Matt, and they were like, "Can you launch TRL with us?" And she helped relaunch TRL because I also saw the reality of trad media and new media. You had to diversify yourself across them because the clients and the buyers and the advertisers and the whole ecosystem. You could just sit in your bubble of YouTube, and a lot of people did, or you could become more culturally diversified. And
was there anyone making product back then, or was that kind of before when they have their own company or like their own brand, and then they're like, okay, well, we can leverage this?
Yeah, I'd say the first person that really was makeup, and it was oh my gosh, this is gonna crush me. So makeup line, CAA helped do it. Can't find it. It's in there somewhere.
Because that just then.
It was early days though. I'm talking 2015, and it had huge valuations, right? Massive valuations. So the margins on beauty are ridiculous, right? And so we were starting to do products, and I launched a bunch of products with my clients in various spaces. Launched early wine with Matt Belisai because he had a show called Wine About It. Liza, we did makeup. We did some other things, I'd say. And with Ghetto Gastro, we did appliances. We got into the appliance business. And, did Williams Sonoma and Target and Big Box and, pretty incredible. Did a lot of fashion stuff.
Were you getting investment to do that?
Lines became a big deal, like when merch first became a thing.
Yeah. Was there investment kind of backing those products and those brands, like when they did launch them, or were they kind of just doing it on more kind of guerrilla marketing and like bootstrapping it?
It depended on your partner, right? So if you had a big enough audience, you could find the right partner. So merch as an example, right? You weren't making your own t-shirts. You had to find somebody that knew how to how the supply chain worked and to like run a Shopify account on your behalf because you were too busy making content, right? So but there was no money down, right? The only money in or down by the creator was their time, energy, and resources against the promotion of the stuff, right? And you making millions of dollars on merch, millions. Just like in a YouTube video that's about to get 25 million views, you say something funny, and then the next day that shit is trending, and so then the next week you've launched a T-shirt or a dad hat with that on it, and then all of a sudden you've made $500,000.
Wow.
Like it was wild.
That's insane.
It was wild. It was wild, and if you didn't take it, and if it was fast too.
Yeah.
And so it was exhausting. It was super, super hard. Right. And these are kids. Like the vlog squad and these kinds of these groups of very young entertainers that I was around, it was really hard on the mental, right? Because you're like, if I don't create content, then I'm not relevant. And if I'm not relevant, then I can't sell the thing. And if I can't sell the thing, then, and you're making YouTube, AdSense revenue, but those rules kept changing. And, if you did something a little risque in your video, all of a sudden your reputation, and maybe you lose brand deals. It's a very, it was a very weird time. You're growing up on camera and realizing, like, I don't know, I'm so glad not that I did anything stupid, but, it was hard way to like grow up. But I'll tell you that the business around it, now, were there some people writing $1 million checks to get somebody's beauty line up? 100%, but not at all like what the private equity around stuff like that is now.
Yeah.
Like it's just the market is oversaturated now. But if you were putting in early dollars, I'd say between 2015 and 2018 in creator-led brands and businesses, you did all right. You did all right. If you stayed on top of the actual business and the trends, right? And you didn't 100% bet on the creator, because of most times they are like, I'm tired, right? Like, I want to be an actress, or I want to go do this now. And
they just get worn out, right? I mean, if you
100%.
if you feel like you've got to post a video every day, and
100%.
it's just stressy, and
yeah. And like, Liza, as an example, like, you're 100% also able to change your mind. Like, hey, yeah, I want to do all these things because I think it's what I'm supposed to do, but I really love acting. Like, I think I just want to be an actress and then do that. And you're like, okay, do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but there was a lot of pressure, not only on the talent, but on the managers and on the agents, to take advantage, of people who had, opportunity to create, to your point, the Mr. Beasts, right? To create the media company that is massive, like what Ryan Reynolds did with Maximum Effort. An example, like he's an example of like a trad celebrity who showed up in a non-traditional way and used his tone and his humor, right, to build products, but with a shitload, like a little bit of backing. And then, I mean, that's where his money comes from, is from the companies that he sold.
Yeah. And like way more than probably what he's getting from acting, right? Yeah.
Way more. Because when you act, I mean, when you sell a company, you also have to pay people. But, people don't realize, if you are fully represented in LA or in the world of entertainment, you pay your attorney 5%, you pay your agent 10% at least. In certain areas of the business, you pay up to 20. You pay your manager at least 10%. So right there, you've got 25% of every dollar is gone, and that's pre-tax.
Pre-tax, yeah. And then
and that doesn't include publicist. It doesn't include stylist. Doesn't include a makeup artist. And all those things are not always paid by who you're doing the work for, right? Because sometimes you maybe want to do it for yourself. So it's when you're selling a company, that's obviously you get taxed in different ways. But it's wild. And if you're in LA, you're getting taxed 50% anyway.
Yeah.
So you make $1, you take home 30 cents, maybe.
What did you moving on from like CAA?
I know. I can sit here and talk about this shit for hours.
It's so interesting. I was like, I could dig into any one of these things, but like sort of jumping into starting your own business.
Yeah.
Did you take some of the talent that you were working with and sort of that, and then think, okay, I can do this on my own. I've had quite a lot of experience in all these different roles, which then kind of adds up to, thinking about doing something yourself, right?
The irony is, similarly from all the other jobs, no, I was happy at CAA. I was helping build. We were at the tip of the spear of this major moment in entertainment, the democratization of content. I was also packaging and selling television shows to streamers for the first time, right? Like it was, and I was helping brands understand how they could tell their story through the lens of these creators, or through the lens of, not a show on ABC, but how about it through the YouTube channel, right? And here's a production company. And if you give me $500,000, we could do an entire season of this reality show and put it on their YouTube channel, and you have full distribution. Like, it completely upended the model, like the trad model, right? And so I tend to be very ambitious and entrepreneurial and visionary. And so for me, I'm like, I saw all of it. And I loved being at CA to help put it all together for my clients. I'll bring Liza up again because she's the one. I'll never forget the moment I went with her. She was invited to interview Barack Obama as he was stumping for Hillary Clinton in Florida, right? And they were very smart, and they're like, we're going to sit with a bunch of YouTubers, and we're going to put Barack Obama with these people, and they're going to do these interviews, and it's going to hit way more people than we could buy media for, right? And so after she talks to the president of the United States, we get in a car and we're chatting, and she starts asking me questions about the business. She's young, right? She's 18 at the time. And she didn't know that I didn't make the money, that the agency made the money. She knew she was paying a certain percentage. And so she started like unraveling who was doing all the work, and she didn't think it was fair. I think in her mind, but then she also was like, because we're trying to get her a manager. So I was like, there's too much business. Like, I need to get you a manager so I can go work on getting you more deals and signing more clients, right?
Yeah.
She wasn't enjoying all the managers she was meeting. And so she essentially was like, how about you be my manager? And I paused, I think, for like 5 seconds. And she went, oh my God, what'd you do? She saw my like body change, I think. And so that's what happened. It was her question. And then we started having real conversations about it. And I just saw how talented she was. And, you know, like I mentioned before, you really need a partner when you're that deep in stuff. And you can't be a producer as well as an agent, right? And so she had so many awesome creative ideas. It was a joy and an honor to be able to be her creative partner and her producing partner, as well as her manager. And we came out with 3 beautiful seasons of episodic 30-minute television called Liza on Demand. And so, yeah, I left and started Carter Media Group. She didn't want to be my only client. And so I left. Ghetto Gastro was also my client at CAA. They came with me fully. Liza still had CAA, right? Because I was, and her attorneys, and, you know, with Ghetto Gastro, it was a bit more all inclusive. I did a little bit of everything for them, and then continued to build the business. And another client came back, Matt Belisai, wanted to like leave where he was at and come to me. And, you know, it was a pretty incredible thing over the course of the 7.5 years. I'd like to say we were very boutique and deep. Now these words are buzzy, but when I launched my company, they weren't. It was like, we represent innovative, inclusive, and disruptive people's stories and ideas. And Salema was, you know, a client of mine at CAA. And as a production company, him and Jason Berg had a production company, and they were creating stories that I was like, these need to be in the world. But the world wasn't ready for those stories. No one was buying it. You know?
Really? So what they would just
on Afropunk. And I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever fucking seen, excuse my language. And no one wanted to buy it because they couldn't understand it. Right.
So weird when you think about it now, right? With that, like
100%. And so, you know, when he was in transition on management, he reached out, and, you know, that's a beautiful story of me wanting to get to know him and his authenticity. And this is mid 2018. And I'm like, cool, tell me more about Sal. And then he told me the story about his name and Salema. And I'm like, well, why aren't you going by Salema? I was like, look, I'm interested if you change your name publicly. So, like, because I was like, that's the story, that's the authentic. And he really wanted that, but he didn't know how to do that, right? Like, everybody knows me as Sal. How could I change it? And
especially within action sports, I mean, that was sort of, you know, forever, right? From X Games and
Sal's my guy. Everybody loves Sal, right? And it's not that Sal goes away. It's just that the actual genesis of why Sal became his name was traumatic. But he didn't he was like awakening to the reality of the reason a producer told him that Salema was too hard to say and we should probably just say Sal. Like, that's so
Just
So
completely
harmful.
disrespectful, and yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so when you really unpacked that, it was like, I'm gonna kind of re-own this and or take an ownership back. And so I said, okay, great. I'm gonna call all the platforms. We changed all his social media from Sal Masakela to just at Salema.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty unique. And, if you listen to his podcast, he introduces himself. It's like, hello, I'm Salema Mabena Masakela. Let me say it one more time. Salema Mabena Masakela, right? Because and then there was this unfortunate reality of really more of an uncovering of what was happening in the United States around racial justice. And so he was doing that right before all of that happened. And
Yeah.
it was beautiful to see the world feel seen in his decision, right? To kind of take ownership of his name in a real way. And you kept seeing other people do it. And yeah, I'm really proud of that guy.
Yeah. That's awesome. How was it like kind of when you were managing them? I mean, was it kind of all encompassing that you would be doing, I guess, depending on sort of the level that they were at? Were you kind of doing everything in terms of like doing their PR and like doing like involved with their partnerships? And so it would be almost and being like on the creative side, being a sounding board, just everything, right?
Yeah, all of it. Unless there was like a big launch and I'm like, we need to hire a publicist,
Yeah.
right? But X Games as an example and the decision to return and, like working and negotiating that alongside his agents. And, I'm the liaison, right? I'm the proxy. I'm the him. It's me and him. We get there to a place, and then we take it to certain representatives as necessary. But yeah, it's a beautiful creative space. It's a safe space, and
Mhm.
things really cool get born from there. And then if the deals, if they make sense, then they hit the world. If they don't, then they never do. Right.
Yeah.
Great example is Dockers came and just wanted to do like a Black History Month feature on Salema, and I learned more about their business and was able to have a really like impactful conversation with their head of marketing. And I was like, I think you guys should come down. We're doing some really interesting things with Salema. And I think you should, based on what you're doing, let's just have a better chat. President of Dockers flew in. All of a sudden we had like a fully integrated plan over the next 18 months, a much larger partnership, launched a capsule collection with Dockers, really leaning into
Sick.
his roots. And, he was able to put on a whole bunch of other young people of color in the action and lifestyle spaces.
Mhm.
And that's really where he comes alive, right? Is like being this conduit and this bridge for the next generations to say these spaces are for you. Like busted down the door. He's
Yeah.
taken a lot of he's absorbed a lot in
Yeah.
order to create opportunity for others.
I've got to ask you this: how did the club come about? Were you, yeah, what was the conversation there? Because there's definitely been a bit of a theme in terms of,
Somebody called me.
having these
Um,
chats and then doors opening, right?
that's I mean, look, and I'm a person of faith, and I'm very much a believer. Like I said, I'm a constant learner. I had my company for 7.5 years. I love my clients. I was not looking for anything, but I'm always curious. And so um, at the time, I had also had a minority ownership in Angel City. So I was there for
Mhm.
the launch of Angel City FC, the women's LA team for NWSL. And it had been an incredible experience to be a part of a community back in the sport that I, obviously love so much. And yeah, got a call from a recruiter about the CRO Sounders. I said, not interested. But thanks. And he's like, no, let me call you. There's things I can't tell you. Give me a call. He said, look, they're in final negotiations to also have the women's team. They're have a really ambitious plan for the future. They've just bought a bunch of land. They're about to build this clubhouse. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like now you're talking my language. It's like, entrepreneurial, you're building. And then as I did my research and understood, there's two beautiful FIFA moments that were about to happen. The Sounders had qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup and that they were hosting one of the USA matches for the World Cup. And they were going to have the women's team. And there was such a beautiful opportunity to help reintroduce that really iconic brand of the Rain back into the marketplace. And so I just, I believed in what Adrian, the owner, and Hugh, the president, were building. And frankly, I missed having a leader, right? Like when you're doing your own thing, you have friends in your board and all those things. But
Yeah.
and I'm from Portland, Oregon. And so, I've never really lived within driving distance of my own family. That was a pro. But I think the world's been sleeping on Seattle. Like Seattle had this like moment in the 90s or whatever. And I think it got a black eye in COVID. And it's just this, like I told you, I like to be places early. I'm very bullish on this city, like really bullish on the creative economy that's about to come out of here. There's been innovation, right? You have Amazon and Starbucks and
Hmm.
AWS and, Boeing, insert, major company that's come out of here that's tech and innovation and engineering. But there's a really, really beautiful like intersection of sport culture that's happening here. And to be a part of helping maybe build a vehicle to have the world see that was really exciting to me.
That's cool. And what kind of exciting projects that you can speak about?
I know, it's so hard. I can't speak about some of them.
Yeah,
Uh, I will say that um, with the rain, that there's much different rules with the MLS and the NWSL, and so there's certain things you can do in others. I think with the Sounders, it's been incredible. We had a big 50th year anniversary last year and a rebrand into this classic excellence model, and we just we're at the precipice of a really incredible year with the Club World Cup. So I'm really excited about a big collaboration, some of the things we're doing around Club World Cup
Mhm.
to kind of enter new spaces and awareness outside of our local market. Can't say anything about them quite yet, but again, the idea that stories matter and making something that's very personal to something very global, right? And
Yeah.
the idea that like we all belong here um, has a lot of meanings to it, and really leaning into the community in Seattle, which is very inclusive, as well as we belong here like the Sounders belong on the global stage. We've earned it. We actually won the tournament to be here, right? We weren't just like selected. And so, kind of like owning a little bit of that bravado. I'm excited about the storytelling around that.
Nice.
Um, I'd say like our Salish Sea kit that we just launched this year, #1 kit in MLS, so incredible. The Salish Sea is the sea around Seattle, all the water. And we had 3 women Coast Salish weavers who were a part of the design process with Adidas for the past 18 months, 24 months.
That's
So to be able
cool.
to tell their story and the importance of the sea around us and the kit, I mean, bonkers. It's like we've sold more jerseys than I think any MLS team, maybe outside of Inter with Messi. Um, and then with the rain, I mean, we launched an anthem this year. We did a documentary with my former client, Jason Berg, who's an incredible, incredible artist and documentarian storyteller, about a blind, Black and queer artist here in Seattle named Brittany Davis. And she did something for us last year with Megan Rapinoe and fell in love. She'd never been to a sporting event, right? And she just felt the power of the community of the rain and felt compelled to create an anthem that would inspire not just us but the world. And we did a documentary about it. You got to check it out, Ollie. It's 9 minutes long. It's incredible. Rolling Stone released the song and the documentary, so I'm really proud of that storytelling. Um, and then we also did this little series called Cloak and Crown, which
Hmm.
is our take on Traders. If you watch Traders on Peacock,
Yep.
uh, it was coach's way of doing like preseason training and bonding. And we just decided to film it. And we're like, screw it. This is a real, like, we should make our own little reality show. And yeah, and we did it. It was very fast. So it didn't have a partner or a sponsor on it, unfortunately, this year. But then we were able to kind of do a quick merch turn. And so for our very first home game, there was a special collaboration drop of faithful merch that went along with like following the series. So like again, we're approaching the market differently. It's
It
not,
sounds like it.
yeah, we're not like, let's do a backlight with like a mean, tough thing. It's like, how can we tell stories that are authentic and meaningful? How can we find partners who want to be a part of doing that? Because where people feel seen, they spend money,
Yeah.
right? They have brand association. They care. And that's what I'm excited about building. And the team here is really incredible. And we're building more. So that's the other thing. We're about to bring in a new CMO and some other folks. And so we're kind of at that really beautiful moment where we're really creating cool stuff and getting humming.
Nice. Awesome. Courtney, if people want to reach out, what's the best way?
If you have any, so please try me on LinkedIn. I'm going to apologize in advance for not being super responsive right away, but she's a little busy. To Instagram, just Courtney Carter. I'm there. Those are probably the best. I'm not going to throw my email out there, but I'd say LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. It's just Courtney Carter. It's pretty simple. We are excited. If you're interested in learning more about what we're doing and you're an advertiser or a marketer or a storyteller, please let me know. We also are hiring some brand director roles. So the brand director of the Reign and the brand director of the Sounders,
Cool.
and a vice president of these things. So we're in a hiring phase. We're really excited about that. Please check out our job board. And we'll get you plugged.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. Amazing chatting to you.
Likewise.
Really interested hearing all the stories, and I could have gone on for hours. But yeah, thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Ciao.
Bye. Thanks for listening. We'll be releasing a new episode every 2 weeks on Thursdays. So don't forget to subscribe to the Group Y live podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when new episodes drop. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to get in touch on Oli Russell-Cowan on all the usual social media channels. To find out about what we have going on at Group Y, hit up the website groupy.co to see our events, latest episodes, talks, and loads more. Thanks for listening.